this one. So I have the pleasure of introducing Tomas, who is not only a very successful and experienced commercial broker. He has just been appointed the president of the commercial department for ISG related. And but aside from that, Tomas is my son, and he used to be my partner years ago. So I know firsthand how good he is at this profession. So Tomas, we have a group of agents that either just got their license or are in the process, or they're waiting to take their exam, but they are all brand new, full of energy, super excited. And the purpose of this webinar today is to work on branding. It's called Brand Yourself. It's all about branding and creating your personal brand in the industry. So I would love for them to have a chance to hear your perspective from a commercial point of view. How do you find it that it's different to brand yourself as a commercial broker as compared to a residential broker or agent?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, obviously, to see you, and welcome everybody to the profession. Quickly, I mean, just talk about real estate in general. I think that you guys made an amazing choice. I don't think there's any other career like real estate where the opportunities to make money are really endless. Most other professions, I mean, regardless how good you could do, you definitely have a cap on what you could make. In this field, if you work hard and you hustle and you put time and energy and work not only hard but also work smart, you could really be blown away by how much you could make and the benefits of the career. Regarding branding from commercial to residential, I mean, my knowledge in the residential side of the branding is kind of limited because I've at early stages, as you know, from my career, I kind of gravitated naturally to the commercial side. For myself, branding wise, it's just letting people know exactly what you do. I think in real estate, it's very important to find niches, whether it's a particular area, whether it's either condos, single family houses, luxury, low-end houses, which is also great because you can do a lot of numbers. The branding part really comes from specifying and being really knowledgeable in a particular sector of real estate. If when you talk to someone, you just say, oh, I do absolutely everything. Commercial, I do commercial. Residential, I do residential. Luxury, luxury. And low end, I also do that. They're not gonna, I personally, I mean, that's my opinion, you're not gonna really get their attention. Now, when you talk to them and you say, oh, either Palm Beach, I know it like the back of my hand. I know all the areas. I know what's coming up. I know where the next area is gonna be. Or if you say luxury, I know every single waterfront market. Specializing in something, I think it's key in order to succeed. And all my colleagues that I look up to and that I work with that do very well specialize in something. Myself, it was commercial. I kind of gravitated to the more the investor side of the business, and being numbers oriented was key for me. And I kind of build on that and kind of build the reputation of kind of knowing deals, how to reposition certain assets, how to create value sometimes in environments that are a little bit tougher when the market's expensive, and kind of build from that side.
And why did you decide to get into commercial from the very beginning?
It wasn't a decision that I took, that I said from one day to another, okay, I'm just going to do commercial real estate. It happened naturally. Initially, when you get your license, you kind of go for anything that's thrown at you. I was lucky enough to have one of the best mentors, I think, in the business, which is Patricia, which is my mom. So I did have a good help on that side. But it actually, funny enough, it was with my previous business I was in, which was car related. I started using the context. Initially, you have to use kind of the context that you have, whether it's family, whether it's friends. That's how you kind of get started in the business. And speaking with my former boss and being introduced with a potential buyer that was looking for a franchise car dealership, I was able to put some connections together, and we were able to put together a very nice deal within the first 12 months of myself having a license. With that deal in particular, I definitely learned a lot. It was a trial by fire, so it wasn't an easy process. I mean, there was a lot of stressful nights. One part of the commercial side, I mean, typically just getting the contract is half of the battle. Then you have a due diligence process where you kind of verify everything and you make sure that the buyer is willing to move forward, which we're not going to get into that right now, but it's a big part of the aspect. And after that deal, seeing the process and seeing the results out of it, I loved it. I fell in love with it. And then I just naturally started gravitating and trying to find listings and trying to find clients that were looking more for an investment, that were looking for business, rather than someone just looking for a condo to buy or a house that they're looking to sell. So my initial deal is definitely what got me started in the business, and then I just took it from there and grew with it, ran with it.
Great story. And Thomas, you mentioned you went to your former boss when you started and you told him about this and he introduced you to your first client. Would you mind sharing, or I don't know if you remember exactly the conversation, but if you would be starting now today, how would you approach your boss and tell him or ask for referrals? Because this is great information for the audience.
The key thing, nobody is going to trust you with a client if you don't feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing. So before approaching anybody, whether it's a family member, whether it's a close friend or a former boss, whoever it might be, you have to know the profession and you have to know what you're doing. Because if they're referring you someone, they don't want to look like, oh, you send me this person that was going to help me buying the house and they don't know how to put together a contract, or you send me this person to try to sell the dealership, but they don't know what you're doing. So I think the key first part before asking for somebody to help you out in the business or to see how you could get them involved is being comfortable with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have experience in sales, because you have to start somewhere, but it's reading, it's maybe working alongside somebody that has experience, it's participating in exactly what you're doing now with Patricia, that she has 20 years of experience. So that's a big part of it. Once you're comfortable and you could have a conversation and be able to answer simple questions or be able to kind of talk about the industry, then it's kind of approaching them on a personal level. There's a lot of realtors in South Florida. I mean, I think in Miami-Dade alone, it's 55,000, 60,000. So people do have options of who they could work with. They're going to choose the person to work with that they like. And that's the bottom line. Whoever they feel comfortable with, whoever they think it's trustworthy. So the conversation has to feel natural. And I think it has to be on an approach on a personal level of, look, I got started, I know what I'm doing, I'm hungry, I'm going to put more than the effort than anybody else could for whatever client you send my way. And when they see that and they see your dedication, I think that it's naturally that they're going to want to help you.
Good. And as you said, you don't have to, a new agent doesn't have to know everything. You just have to know who to go for different things. So if you, for example, I know that Thomas worked with a lot of agents that are maybe successful in residential, but they don't do commercial, and they bring you in and partner with you when they have a commercial client. So, and they may be super knowledgeable in their farm area in residential, but they're smart enough to bring someone from the commercial side so that they don't end up losing the client. So this is a great piece of advice, guys. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find the information or who is the right person to partner, and leverage your attorney, all the network of professionals, commercial broker, all the different sides of the business, so that you always present a solid front for your client. So Again, anyone who has questions, this is very informal, it's a conversation, so feel free to add them in the questionnaire, in the question area, and I'll read them to Thomas. Here it says, Maria is saying, so interesting, thank you. Can you talk about the commercial real estate market now? How best could a new agent build a referral partnership with commercial brokers? So if someone wants to work with you, how do they do that?
I'm very easy to reach, basically. I mean, I'll be more than happy to share my information. I think that was like a two-part question. So the initial part, on the commercial market right now, obviously with what happened with COVID at the beginning of the year when this whole pandemic started, basically real estate, especially on the commercial side, basically took a complete standstill because banks stopped lending. So the year, I mean, the commercial sector was going very, very strong. And then all of a sudden, from one month to another, basically, I mean, all my personal deals, all my colleagues, they basically kind of dropped. Right now, then there was a period of very much uncertainty. They didn't know what sectors, meaning like, let's say the hospitality, office, multifamily or rental, which ones were going to really be affected. We ended up seeing that the world's not ending. Things are moving on. People are adapting. People still have to work. So I think in the past 60 days, or actually probably closer to 3 months at this point, we definitely started seeing a lot more movement in the market. The lenders, local and national, started lending again, which was a huge part of the commercial, I mean, of commercial real estate in general. So it's going strong again. There are certain areas that it's going to take a long time for them to catch up, but that also creates opportunity. That's an interesting approach that I try to take, is in any market seeing what the upside is, meaning that right now, let's say if hotels are doing bad, then maybe actually have clients and try to tell them, look, we could look for opportunities and actually acquire a hotel that regularly would be $10 million for $5 million or for $6 million. Whatever it may be, an office building has more vacancy, we could put more aggressive offers. So I think this market also at the same time creates opportunities, and if you read enough and you kind of know the approach to take, I think that you could use that in your favor. The second question is how you could work with me. I mean, one, we're at Related ISG. We have 7 different offices throughout South Florida, down from Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, all the way up to Weston and Fort Lauderdale. And we have both residential side, which is very well established. I mean, we built over 3,000 units, and the ISG, which we sell, we're the in-house brokers for Brickell City Center, for Swire Group, for some of the biggest projects in Miami. So we would, for anybody that, I don't mean to sound like a sales pitch, but the question is kind of geared how you could work with us. One is if you're with a company already and you're looking for maybe a commercial broker to co-broker, it's somebody that you think is going to be able to be trustworthy, that you could work with. And then another one is either joining a company like my own company or whatever company you're comfortable with that has the team established on the residential and on the commercial side.
Okay, so basically agents that have an interest in getting into the commercial field can join a company like yours or any other that has a commercial department and start learning as part of the commercial team, start as a junior agent in the commercial team. Or if you really want to focus on residential, but you have a client who maybe bought a house from you and then mentions that they want to buy a multifamily for investment, for rental income or anything like that, or an office building or whatever it is, then you can partner with a commercial agent. Thomas, please remember to give your contact information in case someone needs that. Guys, what other questions do you have regarding the commercial field? This is your chance. You have the commercial guy here, Mr. Commercial. Okay, so we don't have any questions so far, but they will come up, I assure you. And in the meantime, can you tell the agents a little bit of the differences regarding, in residential, everything is more standard, like the commissions are standard, 6%, 3 and 3. The place where you look for the properties is one stop, it's the MLS. There's a lot of things that are more like
Structured.
how does that work in the commercial field?
Commercial is kind of like the wild west, kind of the best analogy that I would use for it. Definitely on the residential side, you have standard Florida bar contracts that you use in basically all the purchase and selling. In the commercial side, you have a lot of contracts that are drafted by the attorneys initially, so they're from beginning to end, written specifically for the deal. On the commission side, unfortunately, there's no standard commission, even though I wish that I would be able to get 3 or 6% for all of my deals. There are many deals which I take in 1%, 1.5%, 2%, and that's a reality of commercial real estate. It varies a lot. I mean, it's just a complete different animal. There's from the process of both from initially from the contract to the actual due diligence. Again, that's a part of when you're purchasing a property in commercial. Even when you go into contract and you put a deposit, usually, let's say with you're buying a condo, you have a 5-day inspection period. Typically, let's say if we were buying a multifamily, 20-unit multifamily, you're going to have a 30 or 60-day inspection period. But aside from actually doing the inspection, you have to go ahead and actually verify the numbers. Usually, most commercial purchases are based on a cap rate or rate of return, ROI, return of investment. So there are a lot of things that could be presented initially when you're looking at the property that you have to go ahead and verify. A lot of the times, unfortunately, it's not exactly the picture that they painted. So sometimes there's some renegotiating, retrading the deal involved throughout the due diligence process. But that's why it's important to, when you initially get involved with it, to be around or have a guidance from somebody that is experienced. Because I mean, I've learned the bad way of losing out on a commission from not having a fully executed commission agreement and only having it in the contract, and the contract ended up the price being retraded and the commission being lower based on that. So there are certain things that you could learn while being with somebody that already has some experience in it. But it's a lot of differences. I mean, you're on both sides. Obviously, you're dealing with real estate, but it's a very different experience from beginning of end of the transaction.
Good, thank you. We have another question here from Maria. What would continuing education be for commercial?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, go on.
No, if it's the same, or do you have any other
Yeah,
requirement?
I mean, the license itself, unless you're CCIM, I mean, I have my broker's license, but you do the same regular Florida continuing education 45-hour class. Then if you have specific licenses like a CCIM or other specialties within that, then those are different, but there's actually not continuing education on those. So as far as the license, even with a regular sales associate license, you could do commercial real estate. Just the key thing you gotta realize, any investment means a lot to any particular buyer or seller. So you want to make sure that you're helping them out properly, that you're covered, that your company's covered, that you're not liable for any lawsuits, and that your client's getting the right help. So obviously having the right attorney and having the right team is crucial to that.
Okay. Talking about attorney, how early in the process do you involve the attorney in commercial?
Myself personally, I actually not try to involve them too early in the process. Depending on the attorney you work with, there are certain attorneys, obviously the goal of the attorney is to look out for the client's best interest. But as I've learned throughout the years, there are certain attorneys that look for red flags that aren't really red flags in order to justify additional fees. So if you involve them too early in the negotiation, sometimes you never end up actually striking a deal or coming to be able to come to a common understanding. So initially, I mean, you start with the LOI, which is a letter of interest, and that's non-binding. It has no legal power, but at least each side knows what the other side's looking for. So you're going to have an idea on price, on terms, on timeframes. Then when you move into the contract, that's the point that you definitely want to involve the attorney, and you have to involve the attorney. But at that point, you're already presenting the attorney with the guideline of what has already been agreed. So they don't have to do everything from beginning to end. You're already giving them a good outline, and then you say, okay, now it's your time to put the contract together and to make sure that we're covered, that the seller's covered. And that's, from my approach, that's the right time to involve the attorney.
Good. So a piece of advice to try to work with an attorney that's a deal maker and not a deal breaker. We have 100%. More questions. Lori says, do you think working as a commercial real estate associate part-time is compatible? If yes, how many hours minimum do you think it takes a week? And I know it's all probably relative. Same question for residential. I just want to have a realistic idea of my future life organization with my other current job. Thank you. So do you think that this part-time commercial associate?
I think in real estate in general, when you get involved with it, you kind of have to dive in fully. It's very difficult, and I see that so much with people that recently joined the company or recently got their license, that they try to dedicate a couple hours a week, whether it's for residential or commercial, and months pass by and they're not really seeing results. So just think about it from the side that on a regular job, you're dedicating usually 8 hours a day to working for somebody else. Right now, you have the opportunity to work 8 hours or 10 hours a day working for yourself. So there's no easy answer for that, and there's no shortcut. Unfortunately, if you have a full-time job and you're trying to do real estate as a side hustle or as a side job and eventually get into it, it takes a lot longer to break into really building up a client base or building up listings versus people that say, I saved up X amount. I know that I could dedicate, let's say, at least 6 months from now for the next 6 months and work full-time, come into the office, pound the phone, go after listings. And that's the reality of it. The more time you put in, the more success you're going to have and the more you're going to see out of it.
And if I can make a suggestion, if your situation is you need to start as a part-time job, partner with someone who has a complementary schedule. Because when a client wants to work or see a property, he's not going to wait until you have a day off. He's going to go to someone else. So if you have a partner, if you partner with someone that's available when you're not, you're always covered. That could be a way of going around that. We have a question from Maria. Are referral fees appropriate between a residential real estate agent to a commercial broker?
For sure, that's
referral fee to a residential agent that refers a client.
Of course, standard referral fee is usually 25%, depending on the size of the deal and the amount of work. Sometimes I'll speak personally. I mean, sometimes it's higher than that, 30, 35. Sometimes it's lower than that. But that goes both ways. I mean, myself, I do strictly commercial. So, and I still get residential leads and I still get residential listings. So I give them to people within my team that kind of focus on that or that are able to help that client better. I think that if you have your real estate license and you want to be involved, the best thing is probably not just to refer a client completely, because you're not going to really learn the process unless you're set on just doing residential real estate. I think trying to participate and kind of see how it goes, dividing the deal, is a good approach if you have the time and you have the availability to do that. But if not, in general, I mean, whether it's I mean, my company or any other company, I know basically every commercial broker is used to working to a certain extent with a referral basis with residential clients.
Good. And we have one more question. Lori wants to know if in order to be a commercial real estate agent, you need to be really good with numbers.
You have to have an understanding of what numbers are useful. I'm not a mathematician by any means, but I know how to analyze a deal. Initially, it's actually the certain formulas that are used are actually very simple. You'd be surprised. I mean, in probably in a matter of hours, you're able to become kind of accustomed to it. Commercial real estate in general is more numbers oriented, but at the same time, it really is not rocket science at all. So having understanding of what the numbers are that you're looking for, how to create a pro forma, how to get a cap rate, how to assess taxes, which I mean, you even do that in residential real estate. Having some of that knowledge is definitely going to be key. But I think that anybody that's able to pass the real estate exam has the availability to learn the math. And as you go on, I mean, certain deals do require big formulas that a lot of times I don't even know myself, and I have friends or colleagues who specialize in underwriting deals and figuring out real deep pro formas, and then you have to have, sometimes you don't need to know every piece, but you have to have the right people within your team to help you out with that aspect. I think that's a key part, but having the basic knowledge of the numbers is needed.
And as we discussed today, guys, remember the example. I want you to keep this example in your mind of me as someone who knows nothing about fishing, going out with a rod and just going into any pool of water that I find and throwing it to hope that I will catch something, as opposed to being a professional fisherman that goes specifically for tuna fish at 5 o'clock in the morning in the specific depth and location and with the specific bait that they need for that. So you will be tempted to grab anything that comes your way, but that's not the way to success in the business. So stick to your niche, to your selected market, and anything else that comes your way, you can still make money on that through referrals. Let's say you decide to work the single family home market in Pembroke Pines, and you meet someone who wants to buy a condo in Brickell. That's not your area. You're not going to be able to do a good job, but you can contact, you have to have in your database colleagues or someone that you trust that you can refer the client and still make money on that. Same thing with commercial. You have to have your commercial guy that you're going to refer clients. You may be selling a condo to one of your clients and then hear that he wants to buy something for investment in the commercial field. So you can still make money and do a good job for your client. So Thomas, before we let you go, most important piece of advice you can give to an agent who is starting today?
I say dedicate time to it. That's a key thing. It's really put it in your head again, and that's something that I actually had a lot of trouble initially. Sometimes when you have a free schedule and you could wake up and say, okay, it's the same thing if I wake up at 7 in the morning or at 9 or at 10, and it's the same thing if I write the email first thing in the day or later in the day, versus when you work for somebody that you're like, oh, I need to be in the office at 9 a.m. or I'm going to get fired, or I need to send this email or my boss is going to complain. So you have to have that mentality with yourself. And I think that's the key to success. With everybody that I see around me that has very good work ethics, they make money, they get deals done. You're in the best place of the world. I don't know if everybody's here based out of Miami or South Florida. We are at the epicenter of real estate. I mean, right now, even markets like New York are drowning and everybody's coming down here. South America is going through a big crisis, basically all, I mean, Argentina, Chile, Venezuela already for a while. So you are in a great place to be with for this profession, but you have to dedicate time. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy answers. I think that's the #1 thing I would recommend. And also be around and try to join a company or a team that you're comfortable with, that you're able to learn with. That's also important initially when you're trying to figure out what to do every day and what leads to take or what approach to take.
Okay, we have a few more questions. If you have a couple more minutes, Thomas, before
Sure.
you go. Maria says, thank you. Jennifer, as a new agent, is it realistic to be I don't know, I don't understand this word, and become part of a team, perhaps as a buyer's agent, or would they be pushing you to work inside the office as a salaried until you learn more?
I didn't get the full question.
Hired. Okay, Jennifer here clarified. As a new agent, is it realistic to be hired and become part of a team as a buyer's agent, or would they be pushing you to work inside the office at a salary until you learn more? Actually, I don't know if in commercial people get salaries, but normally in real estate, you're all independent contractors. Nobody in general gets a salary unless you work as an assistant for a team. So,
correct. Salary based in this profession, it's tough unless you have a very vast experience record and you have a big position within a big company that they want you there, and you have other roles that you have to do other than selling real estate. That's where you get salary. Or if you actually have a salary job, meaning you work in HR or maybe as Patricia mentioned, as someone's assistant. Initially, I mean, there's no, to answer that question clearly, I mean, there's not too much salary-based jobs.
I think the confusion came from that when we mentioned joining a team. So maybe we need to clarify a little bit what it means to join a team. So you would still be an independent agent, but you would be under the umbrella of a more experienced agent that would help you in your first steps. And usually there's an agreement between the team members and the team leader that the team leader gets a little bit of an override or a participation in the commissions that the junior agents make in exchange for the guidance and the support in the transaction. So there's many different formulas.
Correct.
Need to
with any team, whether it's residential or commercial, usually people that have been in the, let's say even on the residential side, you take Chad Carroll at Douglas Elliman. I know people that work under his team, and sometimes he goes in, and if it's a residential lease that he doesn't want to do, he might send it to a team member. Myself, certain times I get leads for somebody that wants to rent a hair salon in Coral Gables, and it's something that it's a real clients, something that somebody will get a commission from, but it doesn't really catch my interest too much, or I have to dedicate my time to other deals, and I'll delegate that to someone within the team, and then we kind of work that together. But being in that environment initially, it's a good way to kind of start seeing deals, getting across the desk, and possibly getting some referrals from that person you're working with.
Very good. Okay, so Thomas, before you leave, I would like, someone is saying, Maria is saying, so interesting. Thank you, Thomas. Please share your contact information. I was going to ask you for that. And Lori is joining from Orlando. Nice. So can you please share, Thomas, your contact information in case?
How would I go about in doing that? And I don't see where I could type.
I can type it here in the responses, so everybody, so I'm going to put, can I give your cell phone?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I would love to just put my contact info myself, but I don't see the...
Can you access the questions?
No, that's why I haven't been able to ask questions.
Okay, so let me put it for you. And
Let-
did it
Hold on.
go? Simple. Okay, I just put it there.
Send it. I'm sending it to you so you have all the updated information. Please just copy and paste this.
Okay. Let's do a copy and paste. Did you guys get it? Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you, Thomas, so much. This was very interesting and informative, and at least you guys have a perspective of what it is like on the other side of real estate, which is the commercial Wild West. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Thomas directly. And I'm going to make sure, as his mama,